Another Reboot server is launching on November 15 this year, 2023, and it's got a lot of people considering moving to it and starting all over again. In this video, we'll talk about whether you should swap to the new Reboot Hyperion server or stay in the original Reboot Chronos server. When deciding to swap over to a new server and start over, you gotta ask yourself some questions and think about some different things. In my opinion, I think the most important part of the Maplestory experience is playing with friends. This does not necessarily mean no solo story play, but having a community or friend group to play with. If, for example, your friends are all moving to the new server, it would be kind of difficult to not follow up so you can continue to all progress together. For me personally, progressing with a community is one of the most fun things to do, and I would value that aspect of the game highly. The second most important thing to consider when wanting to swap is how progressed your original account is. Progression is different for everybody. Some people think that being 275 isn't that much and they could still swap over no problem, whereas others think that only having 4K Legion is reason enough to not swap over. What I'm trying to get at is that you should probably sit down and really ask yourself if you're willing to do all of your progression over again. A new server means the progression will be much slower than an established server. It will be quite challenging, and you really need to decide if that's worth it to you. Another thing to consider is how valuable the competition of the game is to you. Are you someone who has aspirations to be the absolute #1 dominating figure in your class or even the entire game? If that's the case, then you could potentially have a good chance at that on a fresh new server. There's no one who's going to start at some sort of advantage, so if you grind hard enough, you can have a real chance of doing it. Now, on the other side of that, it is possible to be a top player on the original Reboot Chronos server. Both servers, it won't be easy to be a top player. That's why I don't value the competition as high for a reason to swap over. Either way you go, it'll be very difficult and result in a ton of grinding, but having no legacy gap is definitely a bonus for Hyperion. Speaking of legacy items, just to get everyone up to speed, legacy items are basically just things that you can't get anymore in the game. So things like potable badges, Misty Island Totem, 100 Heart, lab blocks, and so on. Obviously, the people who have been playing Reboot Chronos server for a long time do have an advantage by having these items. And on top of that, just the concept of legacy items that make you directly stronger than others is not a good feeling in the game for the average player. But on the flip side, we gotta realize that these legacy items are slowly being replaced over time. Misty Island just last year replaced one of the 3 legacy dark totems, and the upcoming new lab block event will replace and or catch up people who don't have that block in the first place. Now, a lot of people are wanting to swap to Hyperion solely because of legacy gap, but I would say that it is very foolish to think that legacy would not eventually get replaced and there won't be a new legacy in the game regardless. Nexon will for sure just make more legacy items, and the people who start later on in Hyperion will just miss out on those, and the cycle just continues where the older players are always advantaged. Now, I say this not to deter anyone from trying hard to be as strong as possible, but I say this just to explain how these items are always being added to the game in one shape or form. Even in just a couple of months from now, we're having a new legacy Legion block coming to the game. Now, this final point is for people who will play on the new Hyperion server just for fun. This is essentially the best reason to play on the Hyperion server. It's a completely new experience and is very rare to go through. Starting on a brand new server where there is nothing easy for anyone is unique and fun. To summarize, really think about if moving is the play. I personally think that for most people currently playing on the original Chronos server, moving to a completely new server is probably not the best play. I'm going to be moving there, and I hope that those who do as well all have a good time together and work on getting this server super active and fun together. Join the Hyperion server Discord down below. We're actively building it up, and there's going to be a lot of Hyperion players all in there. If you enjoyed this video or are interested in seeing new server content, consider subscribing or following me on Twitch to see me play it live. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my amazing members, Scuffed, Blazefire, Shooms, DVI Dan, Uju, Shagad, Relver, Ravi, Grim4K, and Koga. You guys are the GOATs.